letters on for any box you want to check. So we have to understand it as fully as we can. Let's take a look. We're on the map here because this region is going to be new landscape for people. It's old landscape, right, in the beginning of the war on terror, but now there. Where are we? Why is the Peshawar relevant here? Now we're looking specifically at the school itself, but why is this region specific?
Well, Peshawar is a large city, but the largest city in that part of the world, 3.5 million people. This is where modern Islamist militancy was born. In the early 1980s, this is where the CIA and the Pakistani military recruited young men, Afghan and Pakistani young men, trained them to go and fight against the Soviets in Afghanistan. That Frankenstein's monster, that genie, once it was released from the bottle, has never gone back in. And
isn't it
Peshawar,
true,
more than any other city, is full of groups like this,
that the U.S. was not only training them, and this isn't about blame, it's just about understanding, that one of the reasons that they took the name Taliban, Talib as a student, it was because not only were they learning about what their own resolve should be, but learning from the U.S. about what needed to be done for their own goals.
Yes, they were. They were being taught how to go out and fight, and these were not trained military people. They were given the equipment and the ability to fight, but their command and control structures were not in the hands of the CIA or the Pakistani military. They developed that on their own.
Right, and also, as you said, very important to mention that this region, there's so much extremism in there. Different groups, many of them competing. And that is evolving as a big part of the challenge in Pakistan and throughout the region, yes?
Dozens and dozens of groups. And many of them have, you would see, if you looked at what they say, you'd think that they all believe in the same thing, that they all are cut from the same cloth, but there are tribal issues here that sort of sometimes have them fighting against each other. And then when they are faced with a common enemy, like the Pakistani military or the US military, they're able to work together as well. So it's an incredibly complex and confusing situation.
And a perverse competitiveness, right? There's reason to believe that ISIS getting all this recent attention spurs the TTP, the Taliban in Pakistan or in Afghanistan, to want more attention. And that may be something that's spurring. But however, the big deal is, let's put up the graphic here that we're standing on of the different groups and in this region, because it goes to what the Pakistani military and government are up against. And the suggestion is they can't handle it. What have we seen, and why do you think it's been so difficult for Pakistan?
Well, for the Pakistani military, there are several issues here. First, all the complexities that we just discussed. But also, let's not forget, these are their people. It's not like they're going into a foreign country and they can just sort of go and have at it. These are Pakistani nationals.
Clan comes first. Even though they're all in Pakistan, the sovereign nation, the identity as a citizen, isn't like in the U.S. You are clan first. And when that's in clash, you wind up having a different set of behaviors.
You do indeed, and you've been there, you've seen that people, even those who are in the Pakistani military, sometimes will respect their clan loyalties ahead of their unit.
And let's see how that plays out on the map. Let's show the different segments. So you have the Khyber region, the famous Khyber Pass, the historic trade route. That's one area that has certain sympathies. You have Fatah, that's another area. Then you have Waziristan, takes you to the tribal areas. What are all the differences and the challenges?
Well, North Waziristan is the heart of the Pakistani Taliban. That is more or less where they are headquartered. And Fatah, the federally administered tribal agency, I think it's called, that Waziristan is part of that. There are several other smaller districts that collectively make up Fatah. Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, which is just sort of north and to the east of it. Also, what all these places have in common is that they are very heavily ethnic Pashtun. The ethnic Pashtuns make up quite a large number of in the terrorist groups, like the Pakistani Taliban and also the Afghan Taliban. So these borders that you see with Pakistan, those borders exist only in maps. These groups of people for centuries, and certainly since the formation of Pakistan, have been able to travel from one country to the other, which means that these groups have alliances across the borders.
And there are regions that are very difficult to negotiate from a topography standpoint. It made it very hard for the U.S. military. That's why the Pakistan military is saying, no, you need us. We know the terrain, but they haven't been able to access as well. And one of the great ironies of this situation, the Pashtu, while they are, very often a breeding ground for the wrong kind of people, it is that tradition of Pashtuwali, which is where they actually take in people and protect them. And often that dynamic winds up playing out, where at one time they're fighting against the military, then they're protecting certain parts of the military. It's a bizarre situation, but one that Pakistan has not been able to control in the past. Looks even more dubious going forward. Bobby Ghosh, thank you very much for the perspective. We're going to have to be talking about this, Allison, because the challenge